Namaste and good morning, everyone. Let's start our Thursday class where we study the Upanishads. And these days we are studying the Shvetashvarta Upanishad. And we are on the third chapter of that beautiful Upanishad. So let's do the prayers first. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Om Bhu Bhavaswaha. तत्सवित्रवरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् अस्तो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सवीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्वेषावहै Om Shanti 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 Om. So in this third chapter, this Rishi is trying to elaborate on the God's true nature. No matter how much we talk about God, learn about God, there's no end to it. Okay? Because ultimately we have to experience it. So, but before we experience, we need some knowledge also. So at least theoretical knowledge is given to us by these great rishis. So verse number 13. It's quite difficult to conceive of God as infinite and all-pervasive because we don't even know what infinite is. We only know the term infinite. So then the question comes, can he not be thought of as something near to our life, our size? This verse number 13, it echoes a mantra from a Katha Upanishad to answer that question. Can we conceive God close to us? The Rishi says, Angusht matraha purushaha antaratma sada jana nam hirde samnavishtaha hrida manvishaha manasaha abhikalpata ye etat vidu amrita te bhavanti. So verse number 13, chapter number 3. Angusht matra, the size of the thumb. So like this, size of the thumb. Purushaha. Antaratma, the indwelling self. Sada, always. Jana naam, of people. Hirde, in the heart. Samnivishtaha, seated. Harida, by the heart. Manvishaha, the Lord of the knowledge. Manasa, by the mind. Abhikalpata, hidden. Ye means those who, etat this, vidu know, amritaha, immortal. Te means they, bhavanti means become. The Purusha, the indwelling self. Okay, so Purush means the Ish of this Puri, the Atma. The Purush, the indwelling self of the size of a thumb, is always seated in the hearts of people. The Lord of knowledge is hidden by the mind and the heart. Those who know this, they become immortal. So let's look at one portion at a time. God, the size of the thumb. That is the very first thing he's saying. So the infinite God is available right here in our body. He's everywhere outside. There's no place where he is not, but we can conceptualize and see right here. The size of a thumb. So here heart does not refer to the physical heart, remember. We all know that physical heart just pumps our blood. But he's talking about the spiritual heart. The very center of the personality, the source from where the feeling of I-ness arises. In Sanskrit, it's called Upalabdhi Sthan, location of the spiritual heart. And we should not think that God is literally of the size of a thumb, and he's only in the heart space. It is considered like that so that we can meditate, so that our mind can withdraw from the rest of the world and even our own body, and then focus at one place. This helps to concentrate our mind. Remember the meaning behind these sayings. If we just take it literally, we have not understood it. We are studying Yoga Sutras in our Saturday class. When we reach the chapter number 3, the very first verse, he says, Desh bandh chitasya dharna. Concentration is when the mind rests on a fixed point. So this Rishi is telling the students that there is a fixed point. Bring your mind over there. It's not that God is not everywhere else, but at least start looking at it at this fixed point. Because this dharna, it becomes dhyan, tatra pratyak, ektanata dhyanam. When the dharna becomes ektan, in the same place, continuously, that is the basis of meditation. And that's what he's telling us. Bring your mind here. Visualize God, size of the thumb. It also means that even though God is great and infinite, but at the same time, God is available to us here and now within each of us. It's not just only in some select people or select places. It can be visualized. It is generally very difficult to meet great people. However great the person, he is easily available for his dear ones. Dear ones. So we got to become a dear of God, then he is right here. Start loving God. That's all. So simpler than pleasing God is simpler than pleasing the people outside. We got to remember that. God is available at all times, exclusively right within us, in a very conceivable form and size. This is what he's trying to tell us. The infinite God alone appears in all shapes and sizes. So when we say that God can take any shape and any size, can he then not appear of a size of a thumb? You're all familiar with that story. Ashwatthama, the son of that great Acharya, Dronacharya. He shot the Brahm Astra to kill Parikshit in his mother's womb. When he was in the mother's womb, what was the mother's name? Uttara. Parikshit was just a fetus at that time. Parikshit saw, even as a fetus, he saw the Lord of the size of a thumb in the womb and protecting him. Okay? We have to learn from these beautiful stories also, from our history. Guard the hidden self. Even though right now God is ever available as our own self, He is hidden from our sight. This gross sight, the physical sight, it's hidden. Because it often happens that the effects cover the cause. So mind and intellect, which is the created effect, covers our experience of its creator. So we can see it through the eyes because of the Paramatma and the Atma. But these eyes cannot see the Paramatma and the Atma. The Lord, like the clouds, cover our vision of the sun. Why? Because of the desires. These worldly desires make the mind agitated. Likes and dislikes, they color the mind and the intellect. And that intellect like that creates the doubts, confusions, and all kinds of different concepts. So all these do not allow us to see God. We all are familiar with the layers of the sheets, which are there. The Anmay Kosh, the food sheet, the pranic sheet, the mental sheet, the intellectual sheet, and the bliss sheet. They completely cover the self. It's like a layer after layer. And we are constantly drawn in the outer world. So even though it is in the light alone, are we aware of the three states also? Our waking state, our dream state, our deep sleep state. All those states are not possible without that light. Or even the mental projections are not possible without the Atma. Or even the dormant vasanas are not possible. But we forget that light. So beauty is that God is present in all of us. That's what this Rishi is saying, in all of us, as our own self. None can claim that God forgot to put the self in me. Can I exist without I? I can't. Nobody can. That I is the self. Those who have realized God within have become free. They know that they were never bound and they were always free. That's what he's saying over here. Amrita te bhavanti. Amrita, immortal. That means they have recognized who they are, and who they are is immortal. The self is immortal. So they have recognized that. So the Purush, the indwelling self of the size of a thumb, is always seated in the hearts of people. The Lord of knowledge is hidden by the mind and the heart. Over here, the second time when he used the heart, that means the emotions. Those who know this, they become immortal. Okay, when you break down these verses and see the deeper significance, then these verses, they speak to us. What we need to do, meditate. If this helps us, that God is the size of the thumb, that light seated inside me, it will help to concentrate. Remember that. The cosmic form of the Lord is again revisited in the following 4 mantras. We'll see that both the immanent and the transcendental nature of God is explained in these verses. First 2 mantras, we are going to look at them together. They are the famous Purush Suktam from the Vedas. There are a lot of Suktams in the Vedas. So let's look at that. Number 14. Sahasra Shir Shaha Purushaha Sahasra Akshaha Sahasra Pat Sabhumim Vishwataha Vritvaha Atyatishtat Dash Ungalam. Sahasra means 1,000. Shirsh means heads. Has 1,000 heads. Purushaha, again the Atma, Paramatma. Sahasra Akshaha, having 1,000 eyes. Aksh means eyes. Sahasra Pat, with 1,000 feet. Sa means he, Bhumim, the earth, Vishwata, from all sides. Vritva, pervading. Atyatishth, extends beyond it. Dash Ungalam, by 10 fingers breadth. The Purush has 1,000 heads, 1,000 eyes, and 1,000 feet. He pervades the earth from all sides and extends beyond it by 10 fingers breadth. Like a broad. Okay? Because sometimes we think that, yeah, God is protecting only the earth, but then he clarifies it for us, extends beyond it. Purushaha ev idam sarvam yad bhutam yad cha bhavyam ut amritvasya ishanaha yad anen ati rohyati. Again, Purusha, the soul. Ev means alone. Idam means this. Sarvam, all. Yad, whatever. Bhutam, past. Yad, whatever. Cha means and. Bhavyam, future. Ut, besides. Amritvasya, of immortality. Ishana, the Lord. Yad means what? Anen, with food. Ati rohati, grows. All this is Purush alone. Whatever was in the past and what will be in the future. And all that grows with food. Besides, he is also the Lord of immortality. So I told you that this is a Purusha Suktam. That means it's a hymn in praise of God as the cosmic person. It is found in all the 4 Vedas with varying numbers of mantras. And you know that 4 Vedas, Rig Veda, Samveda, Yajurveda, Atharva Veda. You should know the names of these Vedas. In the Samveda and Atharva Veda, there are 4 and 5 mantras, Purusha Sukta. In Rig Veda, 16 mantras. And in the Yajurveda, 18 mantras. In our not even ancient time, only a few decades ago, there used to be so many Gurukuls. My own Guruji, he started his career, teaching career, as a principal in one of the Gurukuls. It's sad that we don't even find Gurukuls anymore. Everyone in those Gurukul system of education studied these suktams right in the beginning. Because sometimes we wonder, how come we don't know this knowledge? Because we did not go to the right kind of schools. This reality was not taught, and it's still not being taught. Sure, secular information or the knowledge is important, but sacred is even more important. If the foundation is proper, you can build a beautiful building. But if the foundation is not there, No matter how beautiful the building is, it can always collapse. God, the eminent and transcendental. He is the cosmic person. All heads, eyes, and feet are his alone. That's what it means, thousands. So it really means he naturally pervades everything. But then the question comes in the mind of a student, is he as much as is manifest as the unimaginably large, gross, and subtle world? No. He's manifest also, unmanifest also. Beyond the manifest world is the infinite, unmanifest potential of the Lord. He exists much beyond even this unmanifest potential state as the pure and absolute truth. That's why he said 10 inches. 10 inches beyond, that indicates that this transcendental nature of the Lord, this is like a beyond this. So don't take this 10 inches, literally 10 inches. That means it's beyond. So his transcendental nature is beyond all concept, actually. See, when we say Om Bhu Bhuva Swa, what does it mean? Bhu means the earth. God, you are on this earth, around this earth. Swa means sky. You are there too. But Bhava means sky, and Swa means even beyond that, where our imagination can't even reach. So this 10 inches means that, where we cannot even imagine. Elsewhere in the Purusha Suktam, it said that only 1/4 of the Lord manifests as the world. 3/4 remains untouched by Maya. So that means a bigger portion is not touched by Maya at all. In its pure state, it's there. And another meaning is that God, who is omnipresent and transcendental, is also available in our heart as the self. 10 inches above the navel. So in our own body, in this microcosm, we can imagine God from navel 10 inches up. So right here in our body. Don't have to go anywhere. All we have to do is turn within. Maybe because he is so close, we miss him. Something very close to us, sometimes we really don't see it that clearly. Just like that common saying, diye tale andhera. And we search for him elsewhere. That's why the famous couplet from Sant Kabir, I'm sure you all know. Pani mein meen pyasi, mujhe sun sun avat hase. Right? I feel amused that we like the fish in water who is complaining of thirst. God is outside us, God is inside us. We cannot be without God, and we are looking for God like fools. God is all, everything. Our world, our body, our emotions, thoughts, ignorance, that can be indicated as this. But there is no this separate from that, the I. All is me alone, is the realization of the seeker. God at all times. Because sometimes we think God can be at some place, only at some time. The Vedic rishis, they say no, all the time. The cosmic form of the Lord is ever changing. Beings change forms. The realms of experiences change with the beings in them. But he exists from beginningless of the time. All that exists and all that will exist in future in God alone, remember that. Presidents change, geography change, the countries come and go, but God doesn't change. Whether in the past, that's why this great rishi used these words, bhutam yad cha bhavyam. So in the past also, in the present also, and in the future also, God never changes. These are the facts. We are always given the analogy of the ocean. The ocean alone is all the waves. Waves come and go, sometimes high, sometimes low. The ocean is an ocean. In the past also, in the present also, in the future also. So we got to remember that. And the same idea of these two mantras is explained through the following two mantras. Because I told you there are 4 mantras. They are taking our mind towards God. And it also, we saw it in Bhagavad Gita also. In chapter 13, I'm sure most of you remember the title of that chapter, Kshetar Kshetragya Vibhag Yoga. Every chapter is beautiful. Every word is beautiful, but in that chapter especially, the deep philosophy of the Vedas is given. And you will see that in verse number 16. It will remind you of Bhagavad Gita. Sarvata pani padam tat, sarvata akshi shiromukham, sarvata shruti mat loke, sarvam avritye tishtati. Sarvata, everywhere. Pani means, in Hindi, pani means water. In Sanskrit, pani means hands. Got to see which language we are learning it in. Padam, feet. That means it. Sarvata, everywhere. Akshi shiro mukham. Akshi means eyes. Shir means heads. Mukh means mouths. So having eyes, heads, and mouths. Sarvata, everywhere. Shruti mat has ears. Shruti mat. See, yesterday we were talking about Shrutis. The primary scriptures are called Shrutis because they are heard directly from God. Loke, in the world, sarvam, all, avritye, pervading, tishtati, stands. It has hands and feet everywhere. Eyes, heads, and mouths everywhere. It has ears everywhere. And it stands pervading all in the world. We talked about yesterday that Vedas are the knowledge of the eternal truths that govern the world. Knowledge. They are the very breath of the Lord, the Vedas. Yasya nishvasitam Veda. The Lord himself revealed this knowledge to Arjuna also in Bhagavad Gita. So the mantras of the Vedas do appear in the Gita and other scriptures also. It's not that they don't have anything else to say, but a good teacher repeats the thought to emphasize its importance. to make the student reflect again and again till the full import of the knowledge sinks into the student's mind. Repetition is needed. So, implication of the cosmic vision. All hands, legs, eyes, and heads are his alone. Then who am I, the individual? Is the body and mind that I call mine actually his? We need to understand this. We got to, through the sadhana, dissolve the sense of individuality into this infinite source, the Lord. This is what this great Rishi is trying to do. And also, when we understand that all beings are his form alone, makes us feel his presence at all times. We can never feel lonely or afraid. We all grew up in that beautiful culture. We were told even the plants, there's a God. In the water, there's a God. The cow, there's a God. The Mother Earth is nothing but God. By remembering all this all day long, you can just keep your mind reveling in this kind of a feeling. God and God alone. I, as an individual, is finite and limited in my capacities. But when I identify with the totality, my capacities increase a millionfold. So as all hands and heads, all knowledge and powers, they become mine. I can then achieve anything as the totality will make it happen. So when we read the scriptures, we should not just focus on the translations or get overwhelmed by the principles. We should also try to understand the implications of the knowledge in our day-to-day life. That is the purpose of this study. Or I should say, the purpose of this study is to reduce our sense of I and my, our sense of separateness. We got to learn how to merge with the infinite. The devotee says, everything is yours, nothing is mine. What happens with that? The attachments drop. If we keep on saying mine, we keep on getting attached and more attached, and those are the bondages. Everything is yours, God, and nothing is mine. So through knowledge and devotion, whatever the method we choose, or whether we combine these methods, because knowledge is what? Gyan marga. Devotion is a bhakti marga. Eventually we got to see, is our selfishness going away? Is our attachment to this Maya is reducing or not? Are our ego and the possessiveness reducing or not? It's not which path we are following, but we got to see what the effect of that thinking is. Because all of these, whether it's a selfishness or attachment or ego or possessiveness, what do? They bring sorrow in our life. And we don't want any sorrow. Why don't we want sorrow? Because that's not our nature. Our nature is only joy and happiness and the bliss. So we don't want sorrow. But these scriptures tell us how to keep the sorrows away. So for transactional purposes, we definitely use the term I and my But in our hearts, we must understand that all is His alone. Remember that. We want to use the word God all the time. Because if inside we don't have that feeling, we just say it only from the mouth, then we are hypocrites. Okay? So when we feel the presence of God all the time, all worries and anxieties drop away. This is the effect. Only we know worries and anxieties or the fear, they are in our mind. So we got to check ourselves. The sadhana we are doing, is it giving the right effect on my mind or not? My powers may be limited, but God is all powerful. And He's there to protect me. We got to have that faith. And sometimes if we cannot remember our own blessings, remember those stories you heard when you were little. You're all familiar with the story of Mirabai. And again, that is also our history. Mirabai drank poison which turned to nectar as she considered that she was protected. And she said, God is giving it to me. He considered her husband who sent it as God Himself. Such things happen to one who sees God everywhere. Even when the other person hates that person due to ignorance, he does not hate anyone. Everyone is Narayan. You can say that one person is a Dushta Narayan, the other one is a Daridar Narayan. Or then there could be a Sadhu Narayan. But all are his fault alone. Sometimes we get teased, sometimes we get tested, and sometimes we get taught. Because there are so many forms. But this is all his divine play. Now the question comes, we got bound in this Maya, life after life after life. It's like a jal, net. We got bound. Does God get caught up in his own creation? In this Maya? Do the individual's problems affect the Lord? If they do, then wouldn't he have innumerable problems? Next mantra, next week, we'll see how he clarifies that for us. I want you to understand these verses a little deeply. All our answers to our questions are embedded in these verses. So Upanishads are so beautiful. So I don't want to start the next one, but let's just do it next week. Let's stop it here. Om Purnamad Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Visheshyate Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much for coming.